From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Getting the goats, how this pair landed in Gator country and where they're heading next. The battle over GMO corn between the U.S. and Mexico heats up.
It's politically driven.
More on the next move U.S. officials are taking as the 2023 Pro Farmer Crop Tour kicks off.
You know, it's a fact-finding mission.
What awaits scouts as they hit the road and head out into the field? Right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when the name on the cap matches the power of one's purpose. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Griffiths. Happening right now, day one of the Pro Farmer Crop Tour is getting underway. And scouts have a lot of ground to cover in a short amount of time, checking crop conditions in 7 states over the next 4 days. Now, the eastern leg of the tour today, starting in Ohio and ending in Indiana. In the west, the day begins in South Dakota, ending up in Nebraska.
Coverage of the 2023 Pro Farmer Crop Tour is brought to you by Pioneer. Pioneer combines cutting-edge research with one of the largest local testing programs in the industry to help farmers succeed. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
One thing scouts are bound to come across in their travels, crops impacted by drought. And one state that will be key is Iowa. Farm Journal's Hein Morgan has more.
There's no doubt about it. Northeast Iowa is dry.
Right now, to try to pinpoint a yield is nearly impossible, and part of that reason is we haven't seen a drought of this intensity in so long.
Troy Deitmeyer is a Pioneer agronomist covering the northeast corner of Iowa. He says this year the main theme is just how variable this crop could be.
We're going to have some guys with the best crop maybe they've ever raised, and 8 miles down the road it might be the worst one since 1988 or 2012.
The latest U.S. Drought Monitor paints the picture, showing nearly 99% of Iowa is faced with dry and drought conditions, with 3% of the state still in extreme drought.
Probably some of the driest areas is probably around that Cedar Rapids, Iowa City area, and working your way down towards southeast Iowa.
He says some of that area did catch rains in early August, but it's still dry.
Those are some of the areas that are really hurting, 1 to 2 inches of rain since planting.
Yet even in those drought-stricken fields, he says plants are still fairly green.
The good part was with the super dry air and low humidity, we were allowed to really cool off at night. So it wasn't uncommon for us here to get down into the upper 50s, sometimes in a lot of low 60s. So that gave those plants, a breather overnight, just like we want to when we go into the air conditioning.
Iowa will be closely watched as scouts set out on the 2023 Pro Farmer Crop Tour this upcoming week.
Because the Eastern Tour covers Illinois and the eastern half of Iowa, the 2 biggest corn and soybean producing states. I think that the eastern leg probably has the more question marks this year.
Brian Grady is editor of Pro Farmer and leads the eastern leg of the tour. He says the ultimate goal of Crop Tour is to span across 7 states and measure yield potential for both corn and soybeans.
It's a fact-finding mission, and at the end of the week, we'll have a really good representative sample across the 7 Corn Belt states that we cover, roughly 1,700 corn and 1,700 soybean samples.
This map shows the 7 states and areas the scouts will cover on their routes.
We don't cover all those areas. Iowa's the only state that we cover entirely, so we're in all 99 counties there, but the other 6 states in Crop Tour, there are areas. So we talk to producers that we know around those areas. We reach out to other sources within the industry and to get a good representative sample of those areas outside of where we sample from.
There's no question variability will be the headline with Crop Tour next week. But between advancements in genetics and producers propelling their production practices today, it's a question of how well this crop stood up to this year's weather extremes.
And with producers upping their game with management and the improvements in genetics, it's really hard to put a number on, and we're probably just going to have to wait till October to see how it turns out.
All right, thanks, Tyne. And the entire Farm Journal team is focused on this year's crop tour. You can join us in person where the tour will be stopping each day. For more information, head over to agweb.com, or you can also watch the day's results by joining us online starting tonight for Crop Tour Live. Each night of the tour, that happens at 8 p.m. Central Time on all of our Farm Journal social media channels and over at agweb.com. And it looks like it could be a hot one for many scouts taking part in the tour. We'd like to welcome a new meteorologist, Martin Larimore, who joins us today. And Martin, these hotter temperatures are going to be sticking around for a while.
That's right, Clinton. Sadly enough, most of us here in the lower 48 going to be sitting underneath this heat dome for the next several days. We could see Saturday, Sunday, Monday, each of these days just lingering with this large high pressure system. It's going to be giving us some very aggressive temperatures for the next several days. And look at those temperatures, a lot of them reaching up for 105, 110 across a lot of the south, and even stretching into parts of the central plains. Omaha at 110. That's going to be pretty toasty there, and it's going to be remaining that way as we get into our Sunday. Temperatures still remaining quite aggressively hot into the weekend. It's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon, but it's going to be one place that's going to be getting a lot of precipitation. That's going to be out towards SoCal. They're going to be seeing several inches of rain thanks to Hurricane Hilary. They're going to be the only real respite. We'll have to be able to deal with a lot of that heavy amounts of heat. We'll be dealing with the heavy amounts of rain. So we'll be, again, seeing quite a bit of that out that direction. Going to provide a couple more details about that. But we got ourselves a nice picture out here near Lakeside, Nebraska. Even though we're talking about this week, our crop tour, we don't want to forget about the cattle industry, of course. Very important to my home state in Oklahoma. Jacelyn Wilson of Lakeside, Nebraska, sharing this photo, saying it was a beautiful morning to move some pears. Hopefully, today is another great start to the day for you. I'll have a morning forecast coming up.
The clock is ticking on getting a new farm bill done before the current program expires. Leadership of the House and Senate Ag committees are saying the more realistic goal is completion by the end of the year. Speaking at Dakota Fest in Mitchell, South Dakota, Congressman Dusty Johnson told us he agrees with that timeline.
We should get a farm bill done sooner rather than later. I know people like to wait until your back's up against a deadline. I like to get my work done ahead of time. But that being said, it's going to take us another month or two to get a good House version. Probably take the Senate that long or a little longer. Then it's going to take us a month or two to try to navigate the differences. That's going to put us up against the end of the year.
The debate continues to be about the final cost of the bill, as House Ag Chair G.T. Thompson has said they want more money for the program, while Senate Ag Chair Debbie Stabenow says there aren't any additional dollars. Plus, the nutrition title and possible work requirements and means testing remain a point of contention. As we first told you last week, the U.S. Trade Representative's office has officially requested a trade resolution panel in regards to Mexico's stance on GMO corn. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins me. And Michelle, it seems as if there has been a lot of back and forth with Mexico on this issue. Now the U.S. taking a serious next step.
Right, Clinton, the announced trade action comes after several attempts to resolve the biotech issue, including a formal written request in January, technical consultations in March, and then a dispute settlement consultation with Mexico in June. USDA and the U.S. Trade Representative's office, though, have teamed up to resolve U.S. concerns fully, as Mexico is the top customer for U.S. corn. The U.S. is challenging measures set out in Mexico's decree from February 13th to specifically ban the use of biotech corn in tortillas and dough. In addition, it instructs Mexican government officials to gradually substitute or ban the use of biotech corn for all products for human consumption and animal feed. Ex-Secretary Tom Vilsack says the measures are not science-based and undermine the market access agreed to in the USMCA.
Secretary Vilsack has really engaged on that. Anytime we talk to him, he's very, very strong in saying that we can't let the Mexicans get away with what they're trying to do, and we need to make them stand up to their commitments under the agreement that we put together. So that's good news there.
NCGA officials tell me the GMO corn ban also stems from Mexico's concerns about the use of Roundup herbicide.
The scientific data is there of GMO corn, and I think they have an issue with the glyphosate, and since that's what we use at our growing rates that we're supposed to be using them, we don't see the issue, but they do.
But left unchecked, that could spill over to other crops like soybeans, which use glyphosate and are primarily GMO. But again, farm leaders say it's not about science.
The leader in Mexico is the one who's pushing this anti-corn, anti-GMO issue, and not the farmers, producers, or the industrial people in Mexico. It's politically driven.
Farmers just want the trade dispute resolved quickly because they need certainty, as they'll soon be making decisions for the 2024 planting season. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
The return of heat to the Midwest pushing grain prices higher to end the week. We'll talk about all the latest market moves coming up next. And later, as kids return to campus, the University of Florida went in search of two freeloaders. We'll tell you how this college caper ended in the country. A lot of green to end the week across the board. Michelle Rook is back to see what traders will be watching this week in Markets Now.
Welcome to Markets Now. A higher close in all the grains on Friday. Brian Doherty, Total Farm Marketing, joining us. And Brian, obviously soybeans the leader on hot, dry weather. If it stays hot and dry, how far could we push this market? How much weather premium do we need to put in?
Yeah, great question. So there is a gap up on the chart, but I think we blow right through that if it's hot and dry and we go back over $14. That's the obvious mark there. But as far as where prices go, so much is dependent not only on this hot and dry forecast, but really what we're going to see from the boots on the ground with the Pro Farmer Tour and get some good feedback there. But suffice it to say, the bean market is volatile. The world vegetable oil market has good support underneath. Consequently, probably see more potential upside for beans should the less than ideal conditions promote themselves, let's say, through the end of the week or later. And it looks like it's going to stay hot and dry through August.
Yeah. Does corn keep following soybeans and continue to get a little bit of a push here with the hot, dry weather on maybe a little bit of yield loss?
I think you can argue that. I'd like to maybe point to corn had a good end of the week, whereas wheat prices also had a good end of the week. So soybeans picked up about 46 cents. Wheat still finished the week lower, but a real strong Friday, and corn some short cover. A lack of farmer selling is probably the biggest issue in the corn. Farmers aren't interested in selling December corn down around 480 or 475. So the bias is that if wheat or beans move higher, corn probably moves with it. I think the corn market has to put a little bit more evidence before it gets a lot of speculative or end user buying that this crop could be shorter. It seems like there's a growing confidence that a big chunk of the crop is probably on its home stretch.
Yeah, and the wheat market, was that geopolitical concerns? I know India is going to be an importer instead of an exporter of wheat. Did that also have a play?
Well, it certainly did. In particular, when the wheat market, that Kansas City contract lost nearly $2 in 3 weeks. So when you implode a market that hard, not only do you have the war, that's a problem, but if Russia is in fact selling 9 million metric tons or up to 9 million metric tons to India, that's a big chunk. That's 10% of Russia's crop last year. So it takes that off the world market, really sets a signal to the world that if you want to buy wheat, you might have to start stepping up, getting more aggressive. This wheat went on sale here.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Brian Doherty with Total Farm Marketing. That's Markets Now. We'll have more AgDay coming up.
To discuss marketing strategies, call 800-334-9779. Registration is open for the 2023 Pro Farmer Crop Tour, August 21st through the 24th. Attend one of our nightly meetings or join online as we gain insight on the 2023 growing season. Visit profarmercroptour.com/register to select the stop nearest you.
Hurricane Hilary, she is currently churning out in parts of the Pacific Ocean right off the coast of Baja California. Now she really is going to be looking at actually seeing much larger effects as you really get into that late Sunday to early Monday timeframe, where she's expected to be a tropical storm near the time making landfall somewhere between the Mexican and U.S. border right near Southern California, where they could be seeing some of those effects of the tropical system. They actually haven't seen a tropical system make its way over the Southern California area since 1939. It's over 80 years ago. Last time that came through, they had winds of around 70 miles an hour, so it's not expected to be as intense as that 1939 tropical storm. Now they're also looking at the chance of a handful of stronger storms in that actual system. You can get a little bit of disturbances as the system moves in. Could be getting a handful of brief little spin-ups, some strong winds, and obviously heavy rain, which is definitely the biggest threat, is that heavy rain. The flooding potential on Saturday is getting pretty high and then reaching into the extreme level in parts of Southern California. That's the first time that they've actually seen that category in Southern California since the excessive rain outlook has even been established. That's again that 70 to 100% range. Luckily, it's going to start fading off as we get into our Monday as the hurricane itself does make its way up the western coast. Now for the rest of us, we're just going to be quite hot, seeing temperatures reaching over 100, 110 degrees in parts of the south, reaching heat indices over 100 all the way up as far as Lake Michigan. So we're going to be seeing some very, very aggressive heat in the next several days. It's not going to be helping that drought monitor. We're still seeing quite a bit parts of Texas and Louisiana sitting in that extreme drought, pockets of the central to northern plains also looking at their very widespread moderate drought in a lot of the parts of the northern and central plains as well. Arkansas River Valley is doing a little bit better thanks to some rainfall they had last week that did knock them out of most of that drought monitor. So overall doing better on that front. The precipitation outlook, again, not much has really been seen across parts of the central plains out toward the west coast. They're looking at more of that rain, of course, thanks to Hilary. Morrisville going to be over in Vermont. Can be seeing those temperatures only reaching into the mid 60s. One of the few cool pockets left in the nation. You got Knoxville over in Iowa. They're going to be sitting under an excessive heat watch over the next couple of days. Highs in the mid 90s. Looking at sunny skies. In Bartlesville, Oklahoma, it's going to be a scorcher. Mostly sun. You'll be lucky to see that shade. Temperatures reaching over 100 degrees.
Our good friend Machinery Pete is constantly in search of a good deal. We'll tell you what he's found next. And University of Florida officials were in search of 2 campus escapees. The tale behind these Florida goaters in the country. Deere surpassing expectations for third quarter profits, now raising its annual income forecast. Deere & Company reporting for the first 9 months of the year, net income has surged by 60% to $7.8 billion. Net income for the third quarter to $2.98 billion. Earnings per share reaching $10.20. Additionally, Deere says worldwide net sales escalated by 12% to $15.8 billion. It's now revising its 2023 annual net income to a projected range between $9.75 billion and $10 billion. That's up more than $50 million. The company's CEO saying Deere continues to benefit from favorable market conditions along with stabilizing conditions in the supply chain. Not John Deere green, but red. That's the color Machinery Pete is focusing on this week. Here's Pete.
All right, folks, let's talk red tractors today. And I'm telling you, I've been seeing red hot auction prices here in the month of August. Now let's start off with a tractor that I talked about a couple weeks ago. August 2nd, this was a farm auction in Ellsworth, Iowa. This 1991 Case IH 7110 two-wheel drive only had 2,613 hours on it, went for $61,000. All-time record high auction price on a 7110. Now that same auction had another record price, actually 2 more. This 2012 Magnum 225 with 903 hours on it sold for $162,500, record by $22,500. And this 2013 Maxim 140, 574 hours on it, went for $124,000, record by almost $11,600. Now 1 week later, August 9th, farm auction in Fairmont, Minnesota. This Case IH MX 210, 3,412 hours, one owner, sold for $86,000. That's the highest auction price ever on an MX 210 with over 2,900 hours. And also on that auction was this Puma 130, 1,322 hours, sold for $80,000. Very strong auction price there without a loader. And then just this past Wednesday, August 16th, on an auction in Louisville, Ohio, this International 1086, only 1,513 hours on one owner. Kind of an unusual deal. A business guy bought it years ago, kept it in his garage. It sold for $30,800. Folks, that's the all-time record high auction price I've ever seen on a 1086.
All right, thanks, Pete. Well, Machinery Pete is always looking for a good deal. Up next, why the University of Florida was on the lookout for some goats, and I don't mean the greatest of all time.
Got equipment to sell privately but tired of scams and hassles? Visit MachineryPete.com and click Sell Mine. MachineryPete.com, the simple and secure way to buy and sell equipment online.
The University of Florida is known for having a gator as a mascot, but a couple of goats apparently tried to take that over last week. 2 goats were spotted roaming the campus after first appearing in Gainesville last month. The university putting up a wanted poster for the goats online, and the reports started coming in, including several that they were on the rooftop of a building. The university says despite daily sightings and paparazzi captures, they had a hard time helping them leave the swamp. That is until the university posted this saying, "Gotcha," In another post, the university is saying the two finished up their summer campus tour with a visit to the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, where an animal care team helped them out. And now they're off to their next adventure on a farm, closing the post with "Go Goaters" instead of "Go Gators." I absolutely love it. And that's all of our time this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in farm country, and be sure to tune in tonight for Crop Tour Live.